Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation?
I think it'd be really beneficial if we kind of start the meat of this conversation around if you can really break down what somatic experience therapy and coaching and that whole ideology is, because I have a feeling that a lot of people probably don't know.
Okay, and I think it's a great place to start. What I want to do is explain how I see trauma and how the somatic experiencing world sees trauma. So we think of trauma as an event, but trauma is really the energy that gets locked in our body when we've had real or perceived threat. So if that energy gets locked in our body, why do we think we're going to use our neocortex to try to resolve it? Because the language of trauma is not verbal. It's all sensation because trauma energy gets locked in the areas of our brain that are more primitive. So let's just break the brain down into three parts. We have the neocortex, which is where we have executive functioning. We have the limbic system, where we have our emotional brain. And then we have the brain stem, what we call the reptilian brain. And that language of the reptile is sensation. And so we have to work with our body's sensations to be able to release that trauma energy from the body. So trauma has no sense of space or time either. And so we have to basically work to reintegrate those trauma memories into the body and to be able to file the memories where they belong. So if you think about animals in the wild, they don't get traumatized. And this is where Peter Levine's work started. He was trying to understand why animals in the wild don't get traumatized and human beings do. And the big reason that he figured this out is like, oh, human beings have this neocortex, which has given us these higher level, more complex ways of resolving trauma and threats. But what it has taken us away from is our innate abilities, like the animals, to shake off the trauma, integrate it into the body, reset the nervous system, and move on. So the work in somatic experiencing is to help someone get back into their bodies in a safe way because that trauma energy that locks in our body makes us not feel safe, right? We've been under threat. So even though the experience might be over, that trauma energy is stuck in our body, and so basically our fight, flight, and freeze mechanisms get stuck in the on position, and we're constantly sensing danger when danger may not be there because we actually believe that we're back in the traumatic experience that we experienced in the past. So it's like why you often see, I mean, I like to use this example. The easy one is always the war vet that came home, he hears something loud on the street and he freaks out. But in our day to day, how many times have you experienced this yourself or been on the other side of it where you say something to someone or someone has said something to you and you have this over under reaction to it and you're just kind of like, what just happened?
Mm.
And that's that I'm sensing danger now, even though there's no danger here because my body actually believes I'm back in that threatening situation that happened behind me.
What are some safe ways that we can start to get back into our body?
Well, there's I think the first thing, and one of the very first things that I teach my clients is we have to get out of the story because we get stuck in the story and we need to start becoming our own observer. So we know what happens when we get stuck in that story, right? There's a spinning out, right? So we're either what I call future tripping or we're ruminating about the past.
Mm.
Okay, so you're not present. And so what does that do? That creates that actually the nervous system and the body starts feeling like it's under threat. So what I teach my clients is we have to become our own observer, meaning rather than being in the story, it sounds something more like this, the dialogue that you're having with yourself. I notice that I can't stop thinking about what happened yesterday. I notice that I'm ruminating about about what I'm going to do tomorrow. I notice that I'm feeling this intense energy running through my body. So it's being able to observe yourself and then being able to observe your body sensations. And so by doing that, what we do is we start slowing down the nervous system. We start bringing ourselves back into the present, because observation is how we become more present. So that's, to me, is step A. And then of course there's all sorts of basic things that I will teach clients, like something as simple as let's say you know that your tendency is to dissociate. And so if we can name it, we can work with it. So even though you may go into a dissociative state, what if you were able to observe it? And then you start noticing what happens before you go into that state. I notice that I'm starting to feel my systems being flooded. I notice that I feel my heart rate going really fast. I notice that I can't catch my breath. Okay, you may go in there, but this is at least a step to start working with those body sensations, because every experience that we're having and every emotion that we have has a sensation. So in the somatic work, we're working with sensation, we're working with imagery, we're working with behaviors, affect, and meaning. We call it the basics of somatic experiencing is what we call SIBAM, the acronym for all those things. And so the first step to all of this is bringing us into that awareness of what's actually going on, and also to be able to piece together our nervous system. So in my book, I worked with a researcher for almost a year to develop a series of assessments for the reader to start piecing together how their nervous system is functioning. So at least if we can start laying it out, then we can start seeing it. We start bringing ourselves into that awareness. And then we start building our bodies as that safe container as we start recognizing what's even happening.